Hey everybody, this is Kathy from K.dill Handmade, and I wanted to welcome you to my video tutorial today for the Stirling Quasi East-West bag. I'm calling it a quasi East-West bag because it has the hints of a traditional East-West bag, but not quite as extreme in the style. So let me show you what that looks like. Here is one that I made in the video tutorial today. So it is it's shorter this way and longer this way. That makes the East-West, that's the East-West idea. So this one has two panels, a top and a bottom band. It's very narrow. And then you have straps, you have hidden strap connectors. You also have options for adding strap hardware if you don't want to add the hidden strap connectors. And then inside, as you can see here from the top, it's pretty narrow. There really is no gusset to speak of or recess zipper. Even though the zipper is down, you don't have those panels like on a traditional recess zipper. And then inside you have a very large opening, a zipper pocket on the one side that's very large. Pattern comes with options for panel construction. So you have the two panels as shown here. You also have another version like this. Here's the two panels on this side, three panels on this side to show the difference. Really great for featuring a panel, a fabric panel, a vinyl panel. This one was made with vinyl with the strap connectors on the outside and 3/4 inch webbing and straps. This one was made, like I said, with vinyl and no interfacing except for the stabilizer base. This one was made with cork, and I did use a lightweight interfacing on it as well, and then of course the stabilizer base in the bottom. And this one turned out really nice. This one I wanted to show you. This is the one that I'm currently using as my everyday bag. This one I made out of leather. Did not use any interfacing at all on it. I added this cute little scarf, tied it around the handle, and this one, I just love this one. I love the colors together, and I think it turned out so good. So I hope you guys have fun. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I hope you enjoyed making this bag. And so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go over the pieces that we're going to need to make the Stirling bag. For this one, we are making the two panel version, so it is a left and a right panel. There's also an option for you to make a center panel with two sides. That is included in the pattern. So you have the center with two sides, or you have the left and right. So that is one configuration that you have to figure out. You could also do left and right on one side of your bag. And then if you wanted to feature a panel, you could do the three sides, the three pieces on the other side with the center, and the two sides with your featured fabric right in the center. That looks really neat as well. Okay, so the pieces for that, again, like I said, you'll have your exterior front pieces, whichever configuration you're using. You have two for your top band, two for your bottom band. You have your hidden strap connectors if you're doing hidden strap connectors. Otherwise, you will have whatever hardware you're going to use to attach your panels or to attach your straps to your bag. So in this version, I'm going to be making the hidden strap connectors. So I have two of those. You will have your four. You could use rectangle rings. I'm using this double D ring here. So you'll have that to connect the straps to the bag. I have my zipper end tab, a length of zipper. And then for the straps, you could do a double width cork where you would do cork on both sides. I am doing one side with cork, and then the inside will be with just a webbing strap. So if you wanted to do double-sided cork, you would just cut out 4 of this. I have just 2 of that, and then my length of webbing. And again, there is options for 1-inch webbing and 3/4 inch webbing. So depending on what size straps you are making for your bag is what you'll need. And of course, your hardware will have to match your straps. Okay, so that's everything we need for the exterior. Let's go over the interior. Okay, for the interior, you will need your main lining pieces. There are 2 of those, and those are cut according to the pattern piece. You will have 2 pieces for your inner pocket, a zipper for your pocket, and also the zipper overlay. The other thing you will need that is optional outside of this is any form of stabilizer that you would like. On this bag, I'm going to also be using fleece on my exterior panels. So I'll go over that when we get there. And then there's also a stabilizer base piece if you would like to have a more firm base onto your bag. And again, I'll go over all of that once we get to that part in the pattern. Okay, so that's all we need for as far as pieces go. So let's go ahead and get started with some prep work first, and let's just get that out of the way. Okay, now taking your hidden strap connectors, what we want to do is flip them over to the wrong side of the strap connector. We're going to draw a line centrally down the length of each strap and apply a piece of double-sided tape on either side of that center line. Removing the paper backing, then we are going to take it and fold each long side in to the center line there. And then I'm going to add a couple clips to help hold that double-sided tape in place. Okay, once you have that, you're going to take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to top stitch down each long side of the strap at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. You're going to do that for all 4 strap pieces. Okay, the next thing we're going to prep here is the main zipper. So for that, you will take your longer length of zipper and your zipper end tab. On the back, just like we did for the hidden strap connectors, I drew a line down the length of the piece, centered, attached a piece of double-sided tape to either side of it, and now I'm just going to take this strap end. So on the closed end of your zipper, make sure your zipper pull is installed onto your zipper, and then on the closed end, which is the flat end of the zipper pull, I'm just going to lay the zipper end right up to that line and then folding it over in half just like that. I'm going to clip it in place just to hold it. So that's how it looks. And then we're going to top stitch right along this edge here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then to the other end, we are going to just separate the zipper teeth a little bit. And what we need to do is we just need to fold that end over. So I'm folding it down by, let's see, basically I'm folding it down to where the top end lines up with the side, which is about, let's see, it's probably about half of an inch. It's about 1/2 of an inch. So just folding that over to make that 90-degree angle. You can secure it with a couple stitches. I like using my Tim Holtz Ideology mini stapler. I find that that works really well for me. So we're just going to do this to both sides of the zipper tape. There we go. All right, and then once you get that top stitched, your zipper is done and we can move on to the straps. Okay, to create the straps, you guessed it, just like we did on the other pieces, we're going to draw a line down the center lengthwise, add a piece of double-sided tape along each line, and then we're going to remove the paper backing and fold the side to meet that center line down the middle. We're going to do that for both straps. And if you're doing the dual layer cork, so if you're going to have cork on the outside and cork on the inside of your strap, you will do this for all 4 pieces. Since I am adding webbing, I only have 2, so I'm going to do this for both of my pieces. Okay, once you get both of those done, you're going to flip your strap over to the wrong side, or the side that has the seam, and you're going to attach a piece of double-sided tape. Here I've used 1/2 inch double-sided tape. I think that's just going to help the straps to hold together a little better. So now if you're using 2 pieces of cork, you're going to remove the paper backing and place the cork together so it's seam sides, wrong side, seam sides are together, and then you're going to clip in place all the way down. For this one, let me just add a couple clips here to help hold this. Okay, and because I'm using webbing for this one, I am just going to remove this paper backing. If I can. Okay, and instead of going all the way across, I'm just going to remove a little bit at a time. I'm going to take my length of strap webbing and aligning it here at the bottom, at the edge. I want to center my webbing over my strap and just press it in place. And I'm going to do this down the whole length of the strap. Okay, once you get your strap pieces together, you're going to take it to the machine and top stitch at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So starting at a short end, come down across the other side, come back. So you're making a whole box here, stitching around all 4 sides. Okay, once you have your straps all sewn together, so I have the webbing on the inside and the cork on the outside, I just want to make sure that my strap ends are even, so I have a little bit of an overhang of the webbing on each strap end. So I'm just going to trim that off so it's nice and smooth. And then using my lighter, just quickly I'm going to singe the ends of each of the strap ends. Okay, now our straps are complete for now. Now we are ready to move on to the exterior. All right, the next thing we need to do to start on our main exterior panels is we're going to grab the center pieces. So this is either your 2 panel sides, or you're going to have your center and then your 2 side pieces. So whatever option you're using, the 2 or the 3, the method is the same. You're going to take your fabric and put it right sides together, and then you're going to clip it in place right along that seam, that side seam. Okay, and then we're going to stitch down according to the seam allowance provided in the pattern. After we get that stitched, we are going to open the panel up, butterfly the seams open, so we're going to press the seams away, and then flipping it back over, we're going to top stitch. So once we get that stitched, what that will look like is something like this. So we have top stitching down each side of that center seam, and then on the back, as you can see, the seam has been pressed open and flat. And then on top of that, I have added an optional piece of fusible foam. Now this is up to you if you want to add foam to your bag. Sorry, not foam, this one's fleece. Fleece or foam. It's up to you. I'm using fleece on this one, and that is optional if you would like your bag to have a little more structure and depending on the materials that you're using for your bag. Okay, so we're going to do that to both sets of center pieces. Apply any interfacing that you want onto the back, and then meet me back here for the next step. Okay, if you are adding the hidden strap connectors, we are going to do that now. If you are not, you can skip ahead to the next, and I'll try to add a timestamp as to where you can go if you're not adding the hidden strap connectors. Okay, well what we want to do is we want to take this panel and flip it over so it's on the wrong side. And then our pattern piece has little cutouts here for red lines, for 1-inch hardware, and blue lines for 0.75-inch hardware. So what we want to do is we want to trace these lines on the back side of our panel. Okay, because we're measuring in from the left side or from the short side here. So that's where we want that one to be. And I'm using, since I'm using 1-inch hardware here, I'm using the larger template. There also are companies out there who have hidden strap connector templates that you can use that trace this as well, and those are wonderful. I have one right here I can show you. This one is from Jolie Creations. So there's, on this one she has 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and also a strap or a rivet placement guide. So this is a great tool if you are looking for doing lots of hidden strap connectors. Okay, so we are going to trace that to the back side of both of our main pieces, making sure you use the pattern piece that says left side on the left side and the one that says right side on the right side. And that's just so that you're measuring incorrectly from the sides. Okay, once we have those marked, what you want to do is you want to cut out those marks, and I'm just doing this as a starter point, and then I'm going to come in with my scissors and cut it more precisely. So I'm just following that cut line out to the corner here and then angle down. Same on the other side, coming out to that corner and then angle down there and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, there we go. So once I got them cut out, what they look like is these kind of like these little trap doors. I call them trap doors. They're little, what is this, trapezoid shaped little cutouts here. So this is where we're going to be installing our straps. So we're going to need one hidden strap connector and one connector for each side. Okay, now what we want to do is on the back side of our hidden strap connectors, we are going to mark the center line. So I already know the measurement here, so I'm just drawing a line down the center, or I should say across the center, so I know where the middle of the strap is. And then here on this one, same thing. Okay, we're going to work with the flower side first. So with our strap, right side up, we are going to find that little hole and slide our strap in up to, so where the top of this little flap cutout is, the top edge of that, we're going to bring it right up here to the line that we just drew across the midpoint of our strap. Okay, once you get that, you're going to hold it in place, flip it over, make sure it's straight, and then you're going to sew right here. So not all the way to the edge, you're just sewing where this angled top here is. So you're maybe a stitch in from each side. You're just going to sew straight across here, do a couple of back stitches at the beginning and at the end to secure that in place. Okay, so as you can see here on the back side, I stitched right across here, just starting and stopping right where that top angled edge is. Okay, flipping it back over, we're going to take our D-ring, sliding it onto the strap. Now we're going to push it in through that same opening, and this time we're going to take this little tab with us. So we want this little tab cut out, pushed through, so it's on the back side here, the back side of your strap. And so you can pull that in so it's snug, and you can see here it's tucked away so you're not seeing it from the outside. You want to pull it in snug, but don't pull it so snug that it doesn't lay straight. So just pull it in snug to where it lays nice and flat. Okay, then we're going to, I'm holding this in place, I'm going to press this back out of the way. And what we want to do here is as close to the base of this little cutout as we can. We want to sew, make sure our straps are even. We want to sew right across here, again, maybe coming in a stitch on each side, sew straight across this line to secure the other end of our strap tab in place. Okay, here's how that looks. I stitched straight across here through both strap pieces, so both little strap tab pieces, and that's how it looks from the front side. So now optionally, if you want to add a rivet here, you can. I would add it centrally and about 1/2 inch down. I'll also show you how you can use this little tool here from Jolili. So if you're lining up the lines here at the top of your fold, you just mark the mark there, and you know that is centered, and that's where you can install your rivet. Now your rivet is optional, but I do like to install rivets because it helps to give two things: a little extra strength, and it also helps to hold your strap pieces down in the back. Okay, so if you're doing the hidden strap connectors, go ahead and do that for the other 3 strap ends, and then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, now that you have your hidden strap connectors installed, we are ready to attach the top and bottom band. If you're not adding the hidden strap connectors, you won't have to worry about this part because they won't be there. If you are, we're going to flip these out of the way, take the top band, flip it over so it is right sides together, and we're going to clip it together along this straight top edge. Okay, and then the bottom, we're going to take the bottom band, flip it over, and I'm just going to turn mine this way since it's easier to clip this way. And we're going to clip along this straight edge as well. Okay, once you have the top band and the bottom band clipped in place, we are going to sew straight along both long edges here according to the seam allowance in the pattern, and then once we get these sewn on, we are going to flip both panels up and away from the middle and top stitch along this folded edge here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once that is on and top stitched, again, like I said, both panels pressed up and away or down and away from the center panel, and then top stitched along this folded edge on the top band and the bottom band. So if you have hidden strap connectors, you should have 2 panels that look exactly like this, with your hidden strap connectors on, rivets if you want, and then we are ready to move on to the next step. If you are doing a different type of strap anchor hardware, there are instructions in the pattern as to how far in you're going to measure and how far down to install your strap connectors. I'm not going to go over that here because this is a hidden strap connector bag. So I just wanted to show you what it would look like if you had strap connectors, hidden strap connectors, or if you're installing them where they sit on the outside of your bag. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and install the other hidden strap connectors to this side, and then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, the last thing we need to do here to each completed panel, and I'm just going to, actually I'm going to leave these this way because they lay a little more flat. What we need to do is we need to cut this pattern piece according to the lining panel pattern piece so that it matches the same shape. So this is our main panel. We're going to take our lining pattern piece F, and we're going to line it up along the bottom here, and then the points should just about match at the end. Now you will notice the pattern piece is taller than the lining panel, and that is okay. That is what we want because we are going to be doing something a little different to the lining, so it needs to be a different size. Okay, so all we're going to do now is just trim this up so it matches the pattern piece. Okay, there we go. So that's what your exterior piece should look like after it's trimmed. There is an angle here, and then there are corners cut out here along the bottom. Do that to both sides, and then we have one more step to do for this one, and then we'll be finished with the exterior for now until we get to final assembly. Okay, once you get both of your pieces cut out according to the pattern piece for the lining, we're going to take the exterior pieces now, fold them over, And actually, I just realized I did not put rivets on this one yet. I will do that as well before I do the final. But we are going to place the two panels right sides together. I'm just going to flip it over so it's a little easier to clip. And we're going to clip along this bottom straight edge. Okay, once that is clipped, we're going to sew across this edge according to the seam allowance in the pattern instructions. We are going to butterfly the seam, but also attach the stabilizer. So we'll just do this part first, and then I'll come back to show you the next. Okay, the last thing we need to do here for the exterior for now is to butterfly open the seam allowance and add our optional stabilizer. So I am using double-sided tape here. This is just 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape, and I'm placing it along each edge here where we just sewed our two exterior panels together. And I'm going to remove the paper backings and then butterfly these seams open. So you don't have to use the double-sided tape on this step in particular here, but I do find that it helps because we are not top stitching just yet. We have to add our stabilizer. So I like to do this because it does help to hold the pieces down. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to press this seam open and press it flat. Hopefully that double-sided tape will hold pretty well. Should hold well enough anyway. All right, now I am using a piece of Peltex. It is up to you what you want to use. You don't have to use anything. You can use Peltex, you can use K.dill Heavy. You could just leave it with the foam, or especially if you're using foam, it's probably going to be thick anyway. So you might not need it. But now what we want to do, and I'm going to use again another piece of double-sided tape. You could also use some fabric glue for this stuff to help hold this in place. But I'm just going to remove the paper backing and then center it over that seam. There we go. So it should be shorter than the width because you want to make sure it stays out of that seam allowance. And then just center it right on top of that seam. Okay, once you have that done, we're going to flip it over, take it to the sewing machine, and top stitch down each side of this bottom seam here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now that we have that top stitched, we are ready to put this to the side for now. Our exterior is complete until final assembly, and we're ready to move on to the lining. Okay, the first thing we need to do for our lining is to cut off the top strip. So there is a measurement provided in the pattern for how far down you measure. You're going to cut this strip off of both lining pieces. You can take one top piece and one bottom piece, set that to the side for now. This one is done. We're not adding anything to this side. If you wanted to add a slip pocket or add another zipper pocket or something like that to this side, that is totally up to you. But for this pattern here, we're not adding it in this example. Okay, so now for the other side, we're going to set the top piece to the side. Taking our bottom piece here, we're going to take our zipper overlay, flipping it over. We're going to add double-sided tape. If you haven't been able to tell by now, I love double-sided tape. We're going to lay it down both long edges of the zipper overlay. And then there is a measurement for how far down in the pattern on this panel you want to attach your zipper overlay. Once we get that in place, I'm going to measure it off camera. Once that is in place, you're going to remove the paper backing, stick your zipper overlay onto your panel here, and then you're going to top stitch around the outside edge of this zipper overlay only. So top stitching just around the outside. Don't do anything with the inside yet because we'll do that in a later step. Okay, once that is sewn on according to or around the outside edge of that zipper overlay, now we need to cut the inside away. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter here to get it started. And then flipping it over to the back side, I'm going to lift the fabric up, try to snip up into where the zipper overlay is, but don't cut the zipper overlay, just cut your lining. And you want to cut it away so you can see the zipper overlay from the back. You want the fabric cut back enough so that you don't see it. And with this ripstop nylon, if I get it set up just right, I should be able to just slide it along with my scissors, and it makes for a really easy trimming. This side over here is a little trickier because I have some double-sided tape that got close. There we go. There we go. All right, so there is our fabric cut away from the back of the zipper overlay. So from the outside or from the front side, you don't see any fabric through that opening. Okay, let's set this to the side and then grab our two pocket pieces and our shorter zipper. So laying one of your pocket pieces right sides up, you're going to take your zipper and lay it right side up, so teeth side up, right on top of that. And we're going to clip it along this straight edge here. Okay, once you get that clipped, we're going to baste stitch this in place, and then we are going to attach the other side of our pocket piece the same exact way to the other side of the zipper tape. Okay, now this next step is optional but recommended to help make the installation onto this side panel a little easier. So what I'm going to recommend is you press open your pocket, and then you're going to press your zipper tape flat. So you're pressing the seam allowance away from the zipper, and it's going to look like this. Now you're going to go ahead, take it to the machine, and then just top stitch again, right along that, or just to the outside of that initial stitch line that you just did. And that's just going to help to hold this nice and flat so that when we try to install it, our zipper is nice and flat, and then it makes the installation a little easier. So again, like I said, this is optional. You could also just press it if you're using a cotton woven type fabric for your lining. You could just press it flat and that would do the same thing. Okay, now that that is stitched down, it's laying nice and flat, we want to again take some double-sided tape. You probably guessed it by now. When in doubt, use the double-sided tape. That's my motto. All right, and I'm laying that along both sides of the zipper tape. Okay, removing the paper backing. Now what we want to do is grab our lining piece with the zipper overlay. We're going to center it left to right, making sure that we have a good amount of zipper on both sides, and then just laying that right on top of your zipper. We're going to press it in place just like that, And then we're going to top stitch around this inside box now. So top stitching around the inside box is what is going to attach our zipper pocket to our lining panel. So let's go ahead and top stitch around that, and then we can finish off our zipper pocket. Okay, zipper box is attached. So now what we want to do is flip it over, flip the, or fold the top pocket piece down, and you will notice that it is longer than our, or sorry, it's shorter than our bottom piece. That's okay. We're going to trim them so they will be even. But what we want to do first is just clip in place down these short sides. I'm going to clip along both sides. All right, and now I am going to just take my scissors and trim that excess off so both panels are the same length. All right, so that's what we have going right now. We're going to flip it back over, take it back to the sewing machine. We're going to fold our main panel back and out of the way, and then you're going to stitch down this short side, back stitching at the beginning and at the end, and I might add a couple stitches over the zipper teeth as well. We're going to do that to this side, and then we're going to come over and do the same thing to this side, leaving the bottom open. So we're not sewing along the bottom because that's where we're going to turn the bag through. So leave this bottom edge open for now, and just top stitching, or just stitching down, back stitching at the beginning and at the end of each side. All right, we're getting there, guys. We are getting there. We are so close to almost done. This is so exciting. I love this part in the process where you're like, you can see it come together. Okay, so open up your zipper about halfway, just so we have access to the inside. Now we're going to take our zipper, our main larger zipper that we completed in the early on stages, way back in the beginning when we did all that prep work. And I'm just going to mark the center of the zipper here. And then I'm going to fold this panel in half. I marked the center of this one as well with just a tiny little snip. All right, now making sure my zippers are going the same way, so both have the flat edges on this side. You don't want your zippers going in opposite direction unless you like them going in opposite direction, in which case then go ahead and flip it around. But I recommend having them going in the same direction. So I'm going to take the center mark of my zipper and match it up with that little notch that I cut in the side panel, and I'm going to clip it across. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Teeth are up, so our lining panel is right sides up, zipper is right sides up or teeth up, and then we're going to take this top piece that we cut off earlier. We're going to flip it so it's right sides down, and we're going to match up that top edge again. And let's go ahead and clip that in place all the way across. Now you might have a little bit of an overhang on each side because this is an angled pattern piece. So you just want to make sure that this top piece right here is centered on your panel, on your main panel, and mine needs to come over a little bit. There we go. Now it lines up. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch according to the seam allowance all the way across. Then once we get that done, we're going to flip this panel up, and just like we did on all the others, we're going to top stitch along this folded edge right here. Okay, once you get that zipper sewn on, this is what it looks like. It is nice and flat. You have the bottom side of your zipper along the bottom edge of that panel, and then your top panel is pressed up and top stitched. So now what we need to do is attach the other side of the zipper to the other panel. So grabbing your other lining, bottom and top piece, we're going to take the zipper, flip it over, Press those panels back and out of the way so you're only working with the other edge of the zipper. We're going to find the center of this panel. So you can just fold it in half, find the center there, mark it with a little snip, or you could also use a pen to mark the spot. Do the same thing on the bottom of your top panel, finding the center. And that just makes it easier for when we're attaching the zipper here. So now matching our center of our zipper, we're going to match it up with that little mark that we made in the side panel. And then we're just going to clip it in place right along the top edge of the zipper. Continue clipping all the way across this panel, aligning the top edge of your zipper tape with the top edge of the panel. Once you get that clipped in place, you're going to grab your top band, flip it over so it is right sides together with the bottom, and then lining the bottom edge of the top panel up with the edge of your zipper tape, you're going to clip that in place all the way across. Once you get that clipped all the way across, you're going to sew along this top straight edge according to the seam allowance in the pattern, flip the panel up, and then top stitch right along the folded edge. Once you get that sewn, this is what it looks like here. It's very narrow, just your zipper between the side panels. And then what you want to do is go ahead and open up your panel completely so that when we sew it together with the exterior panels, it'll be a lot easier. So just go ahead and open that zipper up all the way and we'll be ready to move on to the next. All right, now we are ready to attach it to the exterior panel. So grabbing your exterior, you're going to flip your lining over so that it is right sides together with the exterior. And then making sure the one side of your lining is down and out of the way, we are going to line up the top edges of the exterior and the lining. So again, these panels are right sides together and we are going to clip them in place all the way across. And then once it is clipped all the way across, we are going to sew these panels together right along this straight edge. Don't forget to do a couple back stitches at the beginning and end and just sew straight across. Okay, once you get that sewn together, you can see we are not going to top stitch at this time. We will do that in a later step, but what we need to do is attach the other side of our lining to our other end of the exterior panel. So flipping the exterior over, and again, this is why you want to make sure your zipper is unzipped. It makes this part a little bit easier. Make sure if you're using hidden strap connectors that your hardware is tucked down and out of the way. And then we are going to align the top edge of these panels, again, just like we did on the other side. We're going to clip in place all the way across, and then we're going to sew all the way across this panel at 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like we did on the other side. All right, once that is sewn, what we want to do is open up our bag, and now we need to attach the lining with the lining and the exterior with the exterior. So we're going to be sewing up the sides of the bag. So what you want to do is you want to match up first your center seam right there at the middle, clip that in place, and then we're going to go ahead and clip in place all the way down. You want to try to match up. Once you get that center seam matched, try to match up where all of your seams are. So at the top band and again at the bottom band, clip those in place first and then clip in place between those marks. We're going to do that for both sides, clipping along the exterior panels and the lining panels all the way down. Right, once those are clipped in place, what we want to do is sew up the sides. So starting at the exterior, we are going to start sewing according to the seam allowance provided in the pattern. We're going to sew here at the center and then increase our seam allowance just slightly as we continue sewing on down the side of the lining all the way to the corner. And we are going to repeat the same process to sew up the other side of the bag. Now to close up the bottom of our bag, we need to sew just a little bit here on the side. We need to leave an opening in the bottom because that's where we're going to be turning this bag through. So just adding a couple clips here on either end, and I'm going to leave a good amount open here, probably about, oh, what is that? 10 inches, something like that. Just leave a good amount open so that'll make turning the bag through a whole lot easier. Now between the edge and where I've clipped, you want to sew according to the lining seam allowance. So that little bit larger seam allowance, and again, leaving that center open. Once you get the sides completely sewn and the bottom, what we need to do now is box the corners. So just go ahead and stick your fingers in there to try and get those sides pulled out so that you can get that corner nice and flat. You can press your seam allowance open. You could butterfly it open, or you could press it to the side. Since I have the bottom seam allowance pressed open, I'm going to do the same for the side. And I'm just going to add a clip right here, right in the center to help hold it in place. And then I'm adding a couple clips to the side, and that just helps to hold it in place as well. We're going to sew across that edge according to the exterior seam allowance. You can add a second row of stitching if you like. I think that that helps to give it a little bit extra strength, and it helps to hide the stitches so that they don't try to pull through on the exterior of your bag. So we're going to do the same thing to both sides, sewing up these exterior boxed corners according to the seam allowance. And then moving on to the lining box corners, go ahead and open that up as well, just like you did on the exterior. Flatten out that seam allowance. And here I will nest my seams. So for that, I will press one seam allowance one way, one the other way, and then that helps to get them to butt up right next to each other. I find that a little bit easier to do with the lining material since it's thinner. And then I'm going to clip them in place just like we did on the exterior. Same process. And then we are going to sew across these corners according to the lining seam allowance again, which is that little bit larger seam allowance. And that's just going to help our lining panel lay nicely inside of our bag and not give us any kind of saggy baggy lining. Okay, once you get that stitched, what I will do is after that come in and trim off by about half. I will trim the seam allowance by about half, also just smoothing out those edges on those boxed corners on all four edges. All right, now the next thing we need to do, I'm going to zoom the camera out just a little bit to see if it's a little bit easier to see since it's kind of a large bag to fit in the camera frame. But what we need to do is we need to turn the bag through. So you're going to open up where you have your turning hole, reach in, make sure your zipper is open and it still should be open from before. Reach in and grab your exterior bag and then just slowly work it through. Just take your time and pull it through this opening until you get the whole thing turned right side out. Once it's turned right side out, go ahead and push the lining back inside of your bag. Make sure everything is laying nicely, and then we want to roll this top seam so that we can top stitch it. So you might have to do a little bit of work here. Roll it between your fingers to get it out the way that it's supposed to be and the way that looks really good. And then go ahead and clip it in place. We are going to do this all the way around the top edge of the bag. All right, once that is clipped all the way around, what we need to do now is top stitch the bag. What I will do with this bag is that I will top stitch it from the inside of the bag. Since the construction, this little zipper end here, this tab makes this corner pretty tricky. So turning it through so that you're stitching from the outside of the bag can be difficult. So I will stitch from the inside at 1/8 of an inch, so top stitching at 1/8 of an inch, and I will just stitch all the way around. Of course, if you have a cylinder arm machine or a machine that allows you to put the bag under the bed of your machine, it'll be a little bit easier. Just go ahead and top stitch all the way around at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now that that is top stitched, what we need to do is close up the openings on the lining of our bag. So go ahead and pull your lining panel all the way out of your bag. You're going to open up your zipper pocket fully. So what we want to do is we want to reach into the zipper pocket, grab our lining, and pull it through the opening in the zipper pocket. So this can be a little tricky. I call this the double flip. So we're pulling the lining out through the zipper pocket to get to where our turning hole is. And then we're going to go ahead and clip this in place, and we're going to sew this opening closed through the lining or through the zipper pocket. We're going to sew it closed, and then we can stuff it back inside of the bag once we get that sewn. Okay, once that is sewn through, now we can push it back through our zipper pocket. So pushing it all the way through to the inside, and then just pull out your zipper pocket. So here we just have the two pocket pieces. We're going to fold under that bottom edge according to the seam allowance, making sure it is nice and even all the way across with the edges folded under, and then go ahead and clip that in place. And then we will sew along the bottom edge as close as you can get to the edge while still catching both panels. So I typically will stitch this at about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch from the edge of the panel, and then once you get that sewn all the way across, you are going to then push it back inside of your bag. Again, like I said, just stitching right across this edge, and then we will push it back inside of the bag, and our lining will be complete. Okay, now that we have our bag top stitched, everything is looking great. It's all fitting nicely. Let me just squish some of the air out here. It's all fitting nicely and snug on the inside. Everything looks good. We've got our internal pocket. So the last thing we need to do here is to install our straps. So what we want to do is we want to take each of our straps and we're going to install them to the strap hardware. So no matter what strap hardware you used, the process is going to be the same here. Okay, so what we want to do is from each side of the bag, we're going to measure up. There's two marks that we need to make. One is 1/4 inch up and one is 7/8 inch up from the edge of your strap. So let's see, if I just do the 1 inch mark here, okay, 1/4 inch is there, then 7/8 is there. All right, so I want to make sure I can see those holes. And then with my hole punch, and I'm using a little table press here, I'm going to punch that hole at the 7/8 up, or the 1/4 inch up, and then the 7/8 inch up. So I have the 2 holes right there. I'm going to fold the strap over. There is a measurement in the pattern for how far over you want to fold the strap, and it is 1.5 inches. So from the edge of your strap, just finagle it around until you're at 1.5. And then I'm going to grab a different pen here, because what I want to do now is I'm going to use this as the template to mark the other side. Okay, so there and there. Is that right? Yes. Okay, then I'm going to mark the other set of holes. Okay, once I have those punched through, then I'm going to take it to my bag, feed it through so that when I fold it in half, I'm looking at the front side of the strap. And this is the back side here. Just install some rivets through here. All right, so there are our rivets installed, well, installed but not set yet. So now I'm going to take my other cam press and set both of these rivets to secure the strap. Okay, there we go. There is one strap end attached. So now it's the same thing on the other 3 strap ends to attach the other sides of the strap. Okay, so here's the one strap installed on the one side of the bag. That looks really cute. That looks really good. I like it with the double D-rings. All right, now I will say that this is, again, just a suggestion. If you would prefer to move the placements of your rivets, you could do that. You could install some hardware here on your strap end. If you don't like having that raw edge, you could finish that off. If you're using cork also, or leather, you could edge paint it. That's another option. Really, it's up to you, whatever works best for you and the materials you have. Okay, and there you have it, our finished Stirling bag, both handles attached on both sides of the bag. I think it turned out really cute. I love the hidden strap connector option. Of course, you have other strap connectors, prong styles, and things that you could use. But I hope you enjoy making this bag. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Thank you so much for supporting me and for supporting my small business, my small portion in the sewing community. I appreciate you, and like I said, I just hope you have a lot of fun with this pattern. Let your creativity go, and when you make a Stirling bag, please go ahead and tag me on social media. Use the hashtag K.dill Handmade and hashtag Stirling Bag, because I'd love to see what you make. All right, guys, have a great day.